Okay, get this. Imagine winning $50 million for fighting climate change.
Sounds pretty good.
Right. But here's the kicker. The solution involves basically sprinkling special rock dust on farmland. Seems a bit out there, doesn't it?
It might sound that way at first, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is very real. We're talking about the XBRC carbon removal competition. Huge global challenge,
Yeah.
$100 million total prize pool. All aimed at finding and, crucially, accelerating ways to pull CO2, carbon dioxide, right out of the atmosphere at scale.
And the winner of that massive $50 million grand prize, a company called Maddie Carbon.
That's them.
But what's really interesting, based on our sources, isn't just the carbon removal tech itself. It's how they've tied it directly to helping, well, some of the world's most vulnerable populations.
Exactly. It's kind of a solution with two engines working together. So for this deep dive, our mission really is to unpack what Maddie Carbon is doing. How does this rock dust method actually work?
Yeah, the mechanics of it.
Right. And why did it impress the judges so much it won the XPA? And maybe most importantly, what could this mean? For the planet, but also for those communities really feeling the heat from climate change already.
Okay, so let's just quickly set the stage. We all know the climate crisis is driven by too many greenhouse gases.
Yep.
And our sources confirm CO2, carbon dioxide, that's the big one, over 2/3 of the emissions humans are causing.
And the science on this is, well, it's crystal clear. We absolutely have to cut emissions drastically, no question.
Right.
But even if we do that, carbon dioxide removal, CDR, it's now seen as, frankly, essential. We need it.
Essential why? Just because we've emitted so much already.
Pretty much. It's viewed as a necessary tool if we want to avoid the worst, irreversible ecological damage, even more catastrophic weather, and if we actually want to stay below that critical 2 degrees Celsius warming target.
So CDR is part of the equation now.
It has to be. Without scalable ways to pull carbon back out, hitting those climate goals gets incredibly tough, maybe impossible.
Which explains the push behind something like the XPRIs. Launched back in 2021. And this wasn't just about ideas on paper, right?
No, absolutely not. It was a demand for real-world demonstration. Teams had to prove they could actually remove at least 1,000 metric tons of co-euros. Show it works.
1,000 tons is quite a bit.
It is. And they got a huge response. Over 1,300 teams, I think the source said, from something like 112 countries, maybe 88. The sources differ slightly, but, a lot of countries all trying different ways to capture carbon. So what's really striking is Maddie Carbon, they were only founded in 2022, a young company.
Very young.
And they managed to rise through this massive global field. They got picked as one of the 20 finalists in 2024, and then, boom, they won the whole $50 million grand prize.
That really says something about their approach. It must be pretty compelling.
It suggests there's something, uniquely powerful or maybe uniquely practical about what they're doing.
Okay, so let's dig into that solution then, the rock dust. You said Maddie Carbon's tech is based on something called Enhanced Rock Weathering, ERW.
That's the one, ERW.
How does crushing up rock and putting it on a field actually pull carbon out of the air? It sounds almost too simple.
Well, it taps into a natural process, but speeds it way up. Yeah. See, rocks normally break down over, geological time, thousands, millions of years, and they react with the atmosphere as they do.
Right, slowly.
Very slowly. What Maddie Carbon does is accelerate that massively. They take basalt, which is a common volcanic rock, lots of it around, grind it into a really fine powder, and then apply it to farmland.
Okay.
And this next part's crucial. They provide this service, the rock dust application, completely free to the farmers involved.
Free? Okay, we'll need to come back to how that works financially. But first, the science.
Yeah.
How does spreading dust speed things up?
Surface area. When you grind the rock really fine, you expose way more surface area for reactions. So rainwater naturally absorbs some CO2 from the air, becoming slightly acidic, like carbonic acid.
Like fizzy water, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And when this slightly acidic rainwater hits the fine basalt dust on the fields...
reaction happens.
Exactly. A chemical reaction. The minerals in the basalt react with that dissolved CO2 in the water. And the carbon gets locked up. It forms stable carbonate minerals right there in the soil.
Locked up. So it's not just held temporarily. It's gone from the atmosphere.
Pretty much gone, yeah. It's sequestered as a solid. The source material mentions the durability here. We're talking about the carbon being locked away for potentially around 10,000 years.
10,000 years. Okay, that's basically permanent on any human timescale.
Absolutely. It's considered very durable carbon removal.
Mind-blowing. Okay, so that's a carbon benefit. Huge. But you mentioned a dual benefit, right?
Yeah.
Especially for the farmers. What else happens when this rock dust weathers?
Right, so as the basalt breaks down and reacts, it doesn't just trap carbon, it also releases essential mineral nutrients that were locked inside the rock structure.
Nutrients. Like what?
Things plants need, like calcium, magnesium, potassium, silica, stuff that often gets depleted in agricultural soils, especially in, say, tropical regions where weathering is intense already.
And how does releasing those nutrients help the farmers directly?
It acts like a natural fertilizer, basically. It remineralizes the soil. And the source material highlights a really tangible result from this: significantly better crop yields for the farmers using it.
Better yields. How much better?
On average, the number mentioned is about a 20% increase in yield.
20%. Just from adding rock dust.
Hmm.
For a smallholder farmer, someone may be farming just a few acres, living close to the edge, a 20% jump in what they harvest, that's massive.
It's absolutely life-changing. It's not just a number. That extra yield means more food, obviously, but also more income. Real money in their pocket.
Which they can use for.
What? Well, the source suggests it helps them pay off debts, maybe invest in better seeds or tools for the next planting season, maybe school fees. And importantly, it helps build resilience. Resilience against the climate shocks they're already facing, like unpredictable rains or droughts.
So it makes them less vulnerable.
Exactly. It's what the source calls a win-win. You get the climate benefit, the
Yeah.
carbon removal, and you get this direct agronomic, economic benefit for the farmer, empowering them while healing the planet, sort of thing.
And Mighty Carbon is specifically focusing on smallholder farmers
Mhm.
in places like India and Africa.
Yes, and that seems really core to their model and probably a big factor in why they won the prize. They're targeting farmers in developing economies.
Why them specifically?
Well, these are often the communities who've done the least to cause climate change, historically speaking, but they're disproportionately suffering the impacts.
Right.
And they often lack access to things like expensive synthetic fertilizers or bank loans. So by providing the basalt application free and boosting their yields, Mati is delivering a climate solution that directly benefits the people who arguably need that support the most. It's climate action and development rolled into one.
Okay, the science makes sense. The social impact makes sense.
Yeah.
But taking this from a concept to something that wins a $50 million prize, how do you actually do that at scale? And how do you prove it? How do you make it verifiable enough for, say, carbon credit buyers?
Yeah, that's the operational and technological challenge, isn't it? And it seems like Mati really focused on this. They built a whole system.
Did they develop their own software platform? Matic, I think it was called?
Correct, Matic. It's their own proprietary platform built specifically for managing enhanced rock weathering operations.
So what does it do?
Think of it like the brain or the central nervous system of the whole operation. It's basically an ERP, enterprise resource planning system, but tailored for ERW.
ERP, okay. Like business management software.
Exactly. Software businesses use to manage everything: logistics, inventory, data. So Matic tracks the whole process, end to end, from signing up a farmer to tracking the basalt rock from the quarry where it's crushed to the application on the field, managing the soil sample collection and lab analysis,
Okay.
all the way to using AI, apparently, for helping with field verification. It integrates and tries to optimize every single step.
In that tracking, the lab analysis, the AI that feeds into proving the carbon removal actually occurred, and how much.
That's the goal. They've put a lot of effort into developing a robust MRV framework. That's monitoring, reporting, and verification.
Right, MRV.
Yeah.
Crucial for carbon markets.
Absolutely critical. Because you can't just say, we spread some rock dust, trust us.
Yeah.
You need to scientifically measure things. How much basalt was applied? What are the soil conditions before and after? How do you calculate the actual carbon removal based on that data?
Sounds complicated.
It is. They built a high-throughput system for handling lots of soil samples and measurements. And importantly, they didn't do it in isolation. They partnered with respected research institutions, IIT Kanpur in India and Yale University. That adds a lot of scientific credibility.
Okay, so the Matic platform streamlines the whole operation, makes it efficient.
Right.
And the MRV system, developed with universities, provides the rigorous proof that the carbon removal is real and measurable.
Exactly. And the result, according to the source, is that they can generate carbon credits that are precise, transparent, and highly verifiable.
Which is what buyers want.
Precisely. Companies like Shopify, Stripe, H&M, they're mentioned as early buyers. They need to trust that the carbon removal they're paying for is legitimate, permanent, and properly accounted for. Mati's system seems designed to deliver that. The source even calls it a best-in-class pathway to scalable and affordable credits.
That efficiency, that trust.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can see why that would impress both XPIs and corporate buyers.
it's a big piece of the puzzle.
So where are they now in terms of scale? The sources mentioned they're moving pretty fast.
Yeah, the projection mentioned was being on pace to work with around 30,000 farmers. That's across India, Tanzania, and Zambia by the end of 2025.
30,000 farmers already. That's significant reach.
It is, but their ambition is much, much bigger. Their stated goal is genuinely planetary scale. They want to make enhanced rock weathering a, quote, common agricultural practice.
Common practice, like cover cropping or something.
Potentially, yeah. Benefiting 100 million smallholder farmers in developing economies over the next 20 years. That's their vision.
100 million farmers.
And if they achieve anything close to that kind of scale, well, then you're starting to talk about potentially removing gigatons of carbon dioxide globally, a really significant climate impact.
Wow. Okay. But how does an operation aiming for that kind of scale, especially giving the rock dust away free to farmers initially, how does it pay for itself long term?
Through selling those carbon credits we talked about, those durable, highly verified CDR credits.
So the carbon market basically funds the operation and the farmer benefits.
That seems to be the model. The demand from companies looking to offset their emissions or meet climate targets is growing. Having early, reputable buyers like Shopify and Stripe shows that there is a market willing to pay for this kind of high-quality carbon removal, especially when it comes with these significant co-benefits for farmers and communities.
So winning the XPI's money is great, obviously, but the validation,
Yeah,
that's maybe even bigger.
absolutely. The $50 million is a massive boost, no doubt. But the credibility, the visibility that comes with winning such a major, rigorously judged competition, that's like rocket fuel.
Lives them scale faster, get more investment.
Attract more partners, more buyers, yeah.
Yeah.
It really serves as a springboard. It's also worth noting, the source mentions Mati Carbon is supported by a U.S. nonprofit, the Swaneti Initiative,
Ah, okay.
which just highlights that this kind of large-scale, impactful work often involves a whole ecosystem, right? For-profit innovation, nonprofit support, academic partnerships, government engagement probably too.
So pulling this all together, why should you, our listener, care about this deep dive into Mati Carbon?
Well, I think it's a really powerful, concrete example of how innovation can tackle multiple huge global problems at once. We're talking climate change, obviously, but also poverty, food security, soil health.
Yeah, it's not just a theoretical climate solution. It's
Yeah.
happening now on the ground.
Exactly. And it shows this fascinating blend, doesn't it? Using an ancient natural geological process, rock weathering, but enhancing it with modern logistics, data science, AI, sophisticated MRV.
And bringing together all these different sectors too,
Yeah.
science, tech, agriculture, the carbon markets, nonprofits.
It really does, and I think it fundamentally shifts the conversation around carbon removal a bit. It connects it directly to improving people's lives right now, tangible benefits.
It's not just about hitting abstract climate targets in the future. It's about helping farmers build resilience today.
Food security, income, for those communities often hit hardest by climate change, even though they did the least to cause it.
It really is a compelling story. Makes you think differently.
Which maybe leads to a final thought for you to chew on based on everything we've discussed from the sources. What does it really mean for a climate solution to be truly effective and truly equitable?
Meaning it works for the planet, but also works for the people most impacted.
Exactly. How do we ensure climate action provides direct, tangible benefits, especially to vulnerable communities? And then take it a step further. Imagine if something like enhanced rock weathering did become a common, standard agricultural practice globally. How might that fundamentally change our relationship with farming, with the soil, with the environment itself?
Yeah, making carbon removal just part of how we grow food. A lot to consider there.
Definitely food for thought.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Mati Carbon and their prize-winning approach.